The Acura ZDX is Acura's first electric car and response to what's been an incredibly volatile EV market. It takes about 5 years to take a car from an idea to production, and over the last 5 years, a lot has happened in the EV world. Honda's answer was a one-time partnership with General Motors, and the ZDX is one of the products to come from the Ultium platform, with of course Acura's twist on it. While this was a little bit of a disappointment for Honda enthusiasts to have to watch them turn to another automaker for help, it's actually kind of a genius strategy. Acura gets to take their own time with their own dedicated EV platform, which is actually coming very soon, and in the meantime, they get to deliver what is actually a compelling product. If you compare the ZDX to something like the Lexus RZ by Toyota, who's been having also a pretty passive approach to electric vehicles, you can see that this has significantly more performance, a lot more range, without really costing that much more money. So if you're looking for something that looks a little different and is not as mainstream as something like a Tesla, and also kind of sits in a unique category where this is bigger than something like a Model Y but smaller than a Model X, then maybe the ZDX might actually be worth considering. Now let's talk about the ZDX, starting with styling, because this is a beautiful crossover. It's an Acura, and Acura makes well-styled vehicles, and this Type S model in particular comes with massive 22-inch wheels. I mean, it's really hard to grasp how big these tires are until you're kind of next to a normal car, because this car has a wheelbase that's longer than that of an Escalade, so the proportions kind of match and it doesn't look weird even though this thing has huge wheels on it. Since this is the Type S performance model, inside of these wheels are Brembo brakes with massive brake rotors that are nearly 16 inches. You're gonna need it though. This thing weighs over 6,000 pounds, has 500 horsepower and 544 foot-pounds of torque, so if you're gonna use that performance, you're gonna appreciate having some good brakes, and they're here on the Type S. Another interesting design element of this car is the incredibly long front hood. I mean, you'd expect since this is an EV, there'd be a massive front trunk in here, but unfortunately there's nothing, which is a little bit of a disappointment. Another small disappointment is that this is an incredibly cool angle for the car. The top of the car is actually further forward, or appears to be, than the bottom, and I think that's a cool design, but unfortunately it's kind of ruined by this bulging Acura badge. I wish it was just a little more flush to sort of highlight how cool of a design this is. Over in the front, the design of this car is unquestionably Acura. We have the chicane daytime running lights, the jewel eye LEDs, and we even have a closed diamond pentagon grille. They even maintained the center line that goes all the way through to the back of the car, even though it wasn't on the actual prototype. Now, one slight concern I have is the illumination of the diamond pentagon grille. You can kind of see the individual LEDs. It's not that bright, it doesn't really match the rest of the car, and it just doesn't look all that good at nighttime. Over in the back, I think Acura did a pretty good job designing the ZDX. I actually like it more than I do the Cadillac Lyriq. I like how it maintains the chicane LED. I like how the center line's coming all the way from the front. However, like the Lyriq, I kind of wish it didn't have a rear windshield wiper. I don't know, it's all right, but I kind of wish it didn't have it. And to mention why, there's an incredible rear digital mirror in the back. It looks like it has a washer, so I kind of think it would have been fine to not have a rear wiper to sort of make this look a little more sleek. Because this has a sloped roof and large wheel arches, cargo space in here is quite limited, but it's actually not as bad as some 3-row SUVs because this one only has 2 rows. Now underneath the floor, you get a small cubby area that actually extends over to the back. Now, because this is a Type S model, it comes with the adaptive air suspension, and the air tank for that lives underneath this compartment. But if you go with an A-spec model, you get a nice large cubby area over here, which is pretty nice, but unfortunately it's not available in the Type S. If you're wondering what the rear seats look like when they're folded down, well, here you go. Not bad. Now, inside the ZDX is where things start to look less like an Acura product and more like a GM product. This is a catalog of GM products, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just if you're an Acura or a Honda customer looking at the ZDX, it's not going to be what you'd expect. On the left is not your volume controls, that's on the back right. This is where your windshield wiper controls are. Your headlight controls are actually in the infotainment system. And on the right, you have a column shifter, which is something I actually like because it opens up this whole center area. It's not a bad thing, again, it's just going to be very different because this is pretty much an Ultium GM product. Overall, the interior is pretty good, but there are a few misses. First of all, I love the Bang & Olufsen sound system. It's one of the best sound systems I've ever heard in a car, and nothing beats just sitting in your car, idling with no engine noise, no vibrations, and you're kind of just sitting there relaxing with the air conditioning to your favorite songs. It's a really nice experience, and I can't wait for this to be normal in all Acura vehicles. There are a few sort of weird things. I mean, the visors on this car feel really cheap and not that great. The rear view mirror has a ever so slight vibration, even on the smoothest roads, but it does have by far the best rear view digital mirror I've ever seen in a car. The dynamic range, the clarity, and the resolution of this mirror is phenomenal. The infotainment on this car is good. I like it. It's not amazing, it's not bad, I think it's just good. It comes with Google built in, you've got wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. It does a good job, and there's really nothing to complain about. Now, one thing I did find weird is this screen in the back. It's kind of in a weird spot. I couldn't really find a good sort of seating adjustment to where I could see everything in here. I'm kind of always either missing the sort of top and right of the screen or the odometer on the bottom. It's a slight annoyance, but it's just a minor thing. The back seats of the ZDX are pretty comfortable and very spacious. I've got the driver's seat where I'd normally drive. I've got a very generous amount of leg room. I've got a reasonable amount of headroom. I'm 6 foot, by the way. I do like that I get to enjoy the panoramic moonroof, which does open halfway. I've got climate vents in the back, climate control in the back, 2 USB-C ports, and a 110 outlet. My only complaint is that since this is an EV, you do have the battery underneath the floor, so the floor is a little bit higher, and since I have kind of longer legs, my legs aren't exactly resting on the bottom of the seat here, but overall, this is a pretty nice place to be. All right, driving the ZDX, and I've got to admit that this has been a pretty fun car to drive. You know, as a crossover, even though it weighs over 6,000 pounds, it's got plenty of power, and it does 0 to 60 in just over 4.5 seconds. It's really fun just to thrash the throttle and have a nice experience. Now, in terms of ride quality, it's pretty good. The adaptive air suspension is nice. I like that it can be sporty, but also pretty comfortable at the same time. Now, one of my favorite things about the ZDX, and unfortunately this is exclusive to the Type S model, is that it has Acura Watch 360 Plus hands-free cruise, aka GM's Super Cruise, and it is an incredibly nice experience. All you gotta do is on mapped roads such as this, click this button right over here and the green light comes on, and you don't gotta do anything. You can kind of just sit here and relax, and it's pretty good for road trips or long freeway drives such as this one. And I have to admit, I've taken this thing on some pretty decent curves and it does well. It can even change lanes on curves, and it's kind of a nice experience. I have not tried the A-Spec model, but the lane keeping assist system outside of this cruise, hands-free cruise, is really not good. To show you what I mean with the sort of dumb cruise control, right now I just have the car cruising. I'm gonna set the cruise control here to 70. And the car is lane centering, but this is what it does. It's really not good. So I'm here all the way at the left. There's a car right on my left, probably freaking out a little bit. And now it's heading towards its right and it's centering a little bit. It's just ping-ponging left and right. This is kind of unacceptable, probably only useful in an emergency situation. But by engaging Super Cruise, aka hands-free cruise, it centers perfectly. It does a really good job on curves. It's very confident. While I was using it, I was able to go 10, 15, 20 minutes without having to touch the steering wheel at all. It is a great driving experience, and I would totally recommend going for the Type S if your budget allows for it. One problem with hands-free cruise that I came across was this fairly aggressive steering shake in the middle of certain curves, and I have to admit that I was pretty concerned at first, as you can see by my girlfriend being moved around in her seat. However, it still managed to center itself, so I was able to record it happening a few times and sent it over to Acura, who immediately started investigating the issue. I searched around and couldn't find anyone else experiencing this on any Honda, Acura, or GM products, so it seemed like maybe it was a rare isolated issue, but it sounds like they were still looking into it and would be be making improvements to the system. Alright, let's talk about range and charging. Over the past 380 miles or so, I averaged 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour, which is actually more than I expected when you consider that the ZDX weighs over 6,000 pounds and is fitted with really big wheels and fat tires. Even though it has an EPA rated range of 280 miles, at the end of the week it was telling me that I would be getting closer to 320 miles of range on a full charge. That's probably because while I was having tons of fun at the beginning because this is a Type S model, I did eventually start driving a little more economically because I don't have a charger at home. That's one important thing to keep in mind if you are considering an EV, and I imagine that the ZDX will be attracting a lot of first-time EV owners, especially with great lease offers. I went to multiple Electrify America charging stations here in Southern California, and all but one time were full, and I had to wait at least 20 minutes as 2 to 3 cars in front of me waited for a limited number of charging stalls. The one time that the station was available, I wasn't exactly looking for a charger, but took advantage of the situation because it seemed rare and charged for about 15 minutes. With that being said, just make sure you have a reliable place to charge at home or at work if you are considering any electric vehicle. Fortunately, the ZDX will eventually have access to Tesla's supercharger network, and that will greatly improve the public charging experience. Although it recently opened up to GM vehicles, the ZDX and Prologue have yet to receive access, but I'm told that it will be happening, but just at a later time. The Acura ZDX is a stylish and reasonably compelling electric vehicle that's based on the proven Ultium platform. Now, if you're looking for something different or an alternative to something like the Cadillac Lyriq, the ZDX is a great option, especially if you can get yourself a good lease offer. Now, while I personally can't wait to see Honda and Acura's own dedicated EVs, the ZDX for now sets a very high bar for them to meet, so you can be sure that they will at least make something that's competitive with something like the ZDX. Until then though, thank you so much for watching, and thank you to Acura for loaning me the ZDX, and I'll see you on the next one.